Everybody, welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP, and 10 million jobs. In support of that mission, we do these free mentoring sessions week after week after week. This is the 448th free mentoring roundtable. We started back in the fall of 2008 to do these roundtables. This roundtable series predates the 1 million by 1 million program by a couple of years. And this is the experiment that led us to eventually launch 1 million by 1 million in 2010. So over 100,000 people have participated in these sessions. We have recorded every single session. All recordings are available on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. And you can subscribe to the channel. You can listen to these. These are great learning materials, especially if you're in the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey. It's really awesome learning material for you to start getting the feel for how to put one foot before the other. If you're live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. Our Twitter handles are at 1Mby1M and at Sramana. Please follow. We publish an enormous amount of interesting, inspirational, educational content. Now, this is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we want you to participate as much as possible. So here are the call-in numbers. I'll put them up a little bit later in the program. We would like you to participate. We would like you to ask questions, weigh in with your thoughts, and so on. So hope to talk to you later in the program as well. Of course, there's a public chat on WebEx that is open throughout the show. You can always introduce yourselves and say whatever you want to say, participate in through text as well. Today's session will begin with a conversation with Nnamdi Okike, co-founder and managing partner of 645 Ventures. Nnamdi, welcome to the show. Your audio is not coming through.
I'm on the phone here. Can you hear me?
Now we can. Yes, perfect. All right.
Okay, great. Great. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about 645 Ventures and your journey a little bit so we get to know you.
Yeah, definitely. So, we are a seed to Series A venture fund. We're headquartered in New York. We invest primarily in enterprise SaaS and enterprise infrastructure software. So we're investing in companies that are typically just getting off the ground, but typically have what we call early predictable performance metrics. So very large markets, great founders, and typically some kind of competitive barrier or competitive differentiation early on in the product. So we started our fund about 6 years ago now, so back in at the beginning of 2014. And really, the fund began really as a result of the experiences that myself and my co-founder, Aaron Holiday, had previously. So I'd spent about 9 years working for a fund called Insight Ventures. Insight Ventures today is one of the largest venture funds on the East Coast. They manage about $15 billion of capital. And I spent many years there investing. I had close to 20 deals I'd done. I had 9 exits, 4 IPOs and 5 acquisitions, and had really learned the venture business at Insight and had seen some really interesting businesses over that time. And then I wanted to take a lot of my learnings and move them to earlier stage and develop a fund that had a more systematic approach to investing. So I came together with my partner, Aaron, who is a software developer and engineer by background. And we started to build our fund almost 6 years ago now.
How big is the fund?
Yep. So we manage about $50 million. Our current fund is a $40 million fund. So we raised that fund last fall, and that's an institutional fund. So we have several large institutions like Princeton University and the Mellon Foundation, and some great high net worth individuals invested in our fund as well. So folks like Mark Andreessen and Howard Morgan, co-founder of First Round Capital, and Robert Smith from Vista Equity. So we've got some great LPs who back us.
Okay. And define early stage, define seed stage for us the way you see it. Because as you know, the venture business has fragmented quite significantly. So early stage or seed stage is no longer one, moniker, so to speak. People have their own definitions. There's pre-seed, there's seed, there's post-seed, pre-series A, small series A. So all of that falls roughly in the seed and early stage bucket. So where do you fit in that spectrum?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful point. There's really been a fragmentation, so to speak, of early stage, and it's really resulted from a lot of different factors, right? Everything from this proliferation of micro VCs, there's been a rise of crowdfunding, there's been growth of super angels, and all of those entities kind of play in different places. So the way we define it really is companies that are early product market fit and what we describe as early predictable performance metrics. And I can kind of describe how we look at the world. So our belief is that there's a lower amount of capital required to really get in business. You don't need to buy servers. You don't need to do very expensive sales and marketing. And so as a result, companies, especially companies that are selling downloadable software or software for SMBs or even enterprise software in some cases, they can get started with a small amount of money. They can raise, say, $500,000, from an angel group or from a group of investors and really get in the game. And we kind of define those rounds as pre-seed, kind of typically the kind of get in business type of rounds. We typically look at the round after that. So what we're looking for are companies that have typically built an early product and have some early traction. So if it's software, for example, selling to small businesses, maybe they have 10 early customers or 15 early customers, early use cases where we can see, do the customers like the product? Is there early evidence that they're willing to pay? But typically these are companies that don't have a lot of revenue. Usually when we come upon them, they may have a couple $100,000 of annualized recurring revenue, but they're really looking to scale up. And typically they have a big market opportunity and founders who have a high level of dedication. And what we do is we typically invest to help companies scale to Series A. So, we're typically investing on average $750,000 to $1 million in a round. Usually the rounds that we lead may be $2 to $3 million in size. And that's sufficient capital to enable the company to really scale to a Series A round. And what we look for are companies that we believe can get to very competitive Series A rounds led by the top firms. And so if you look at our portfolio historically, we've had firms like Charles River Ventures, Index Ventures, Bessemer, and Andreessen Horowitz kind of lead the Series A's and Series B's of our companies. And what we look for are companies that can get to that stage. And we view it as our mission and our goal is to really work with those companies to kind of help them get to that next level and to put the pieces in place to do that. And that's helping to build the sales team, helping to build the engineering team, helping them really think through the story and the brand of the company and really, help them get to the next stage. So
what about geography? Is this happening around the country, around the world, just in New York? What's your preference?
No, that's another great question. So one of our core beliefs is that in today's entrepreneurial environment, you can start a great company from anywhere. And oftentimes, if you're a software entrepreneur, it is even advantageous to start a company in a smaller city where you can get access to the best talent and where there aren't as many companies competing for the best engineers and salespeople. So the way we run our model is we call it outbound sourcing. And what you've seen historically is that outbound sourcing has been applied very effectively at the growth stage at firms like Insight, where I spent many years. But historically, growth stage, the outbound sourcing wasn't applied very well at the early stage because historically there wasn't a lot of data on startups. Startups took more money to get to the next stage, and it was very hard to run a sourcing model But we believe that's now changed. So if you think about our model, what we do is we use our own internal data, software, analytics, and we have a sourcing team of folks who proactively call on companies. And so just to give you, one case study, the most recent deal we did is investing in a company called Adea, which is a very high potential internet security software company. And this company was founded by the former CIO of a company called Duo Security, which is a $2 billion plus acquisition by Cisco. This company is in Detroit, so it's located in Michigan. Duo, as you may know, was also in Michigan, and so there's a lot of great alumni and folks who have built their careers at Duo that may be looking to join a new startup. And the way we found this company was really through our own internal analytics. We were able to identify this founder as a very high potential founder, reach out to him proactively. His name is Raffaele Mautone, and we're able to lead his first venture round. And so that's really reflective of our model. It's an outbound sourcing model. And so if you look at our portfolio, we have investments, obviously in New York where we are located, but we have investments in, down in Texas. We have investments in the Bay Area. We have investments in DC and Boston. So we really run this outbound sourcing model, and we look for the best companies wherever we can find them. And our belief, again, is that, today's entrepreneurial environment is producing great companies in a much broader set of locations than has happened historically.
Well, and also I think it's much easier to build companies when you don't have your staff being poached all the time, right? It's not just easier, it's kind of impossible to build a company if your team is constantly being poached. So if you're located in a major location where there is a lot of competition for talent, it's very, very problematic, very troublesome.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
So the other question I have is, you do both B2B and B2C, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so you said,
we do the majority. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I wanted to elaborate on the questions. Like you gave the example of the, let's say a company is selling to small businesses and you want to see about 10 customers, 10, 15 customers to see validation. Could you complete the picture and talk about what do you want to see in validation when it comes to a B2C business? Because the metrics are different. What constitutes something promising is different. So how do you think about B2C validation?
No, that's a great question. And as you described, we do both B2B and B2C. Probably about 75% of our deals are B2B, so majority is B2B. But we do some direct-to-consumer as well, and we have a couple of companies that have gotten to a large scale on the consumer side. So I can talk through a couple of case studies and just describe it. So on the consumer side, we look at a couple of different things. The first thing we think about is what's the quality of the business model, and is there early evidence that the business model is working? So the way we would size up, for example, a consumer marketplace might be a little bit different than the way we size up a digital media company. For consumer marketplaces, typically you can see early transactions, you can see something called take rate, which is the gross margin. You can see frequency of purchase. Whereas digital media company, you might want to see more growth in users and more growth in activity because the business model may be later in coming. So we think a lot about quality of business model, and is there evidence that this business model is starting to manifest itself? So maybe just to give you, a couple of examples. For example, on the online marketplace category, we're investors in a business called Goldbelly. Goldbelly is a direct-to-consumer marketplace that enables customers to access what they call local legendary food makers. So these are food makers around the country who, have local followings. People love their foods, but these food makers may want to sell nationally. And Goldbelly provides a platform for them to do that. So they provide marketing, they provide an e-commerce platform, they provide, they connect them up with FedEx for shipping. And so we describe it as kind of the hub for food makers to be able to sell nationally. So if you look at our investment in Goldbelly, when we first came upon that company, they had done roughly about $1 million of gross transaction volume in their first year, and they were tracking to about $3 million of gross volume the next year. And so they had early evidence of revenue, and they were really showing that they could bring on food makers. I think at the time they might have had, 30 or so different food establishments on the platform who were selling. And when we looked at Goldbelly, the thing that was most interesting to us was a combination of the frequent purchasing by end customers, the high level of satisfaction, and obviously the growth in revenue. And so we were able to get comfortable with that business opportunity, invest in their kind of what they call the second seed round, and then reinvest at the Series A. And the company subsequently has gotten to very large scale. So that's an example of a marketplace deal. A second one I might describe, which is in a different category in consumer, is a business called Overtime. Overtime is headquartered in New York. I describe Overtime as ESPN meets Snapchat, so very viral content that's oftentimes user-generated, really focusing on the millennial generation who consumes sports content in a very different way. They're looking at highlights, they're sharing things on social media, and oftentimes they're not watching a full game. They want to really get inside the game and understand the players and the players' lives. And so when we first came upon Overtime, at the time they actually were pre-revenue, but what we were seeing in the business was really rapid growth in views, in shares of videos, in frequency of use by users, and they were really starting to develop a real following in their target demographic. And so our belief there was that the behavior that we were seeing that Overtime was showing could really translate into revenue over time, and it has through a combination of commerce and advertising. So in an area like that, it's much more about the behavior of the users rather than a specific revenue goal, so to speak, or revenue milestone.
And what business models are you comfortable with when it comes to media? Because media has really got slaughtered, right, in the last few decades.
Yeah. We don't do a lot of media, but I think in the case of Overtime as an example, what we like to see there is a couple different things. I think we like to see businesses that have evidence of a differentiated voice, a differentiated content strategy, typically a low-cost content strategy. So in the case of Overtime, because almost all the content, most of the content is user-generated, they have a much lower cost of content creation. But we also like to see kind of a multi-tiered revenue model. So as an example, Overtime has a commerce business. They sell apparel, they sell products to customers, and they've kind of complemented the traditional, advertising-driven revenue model with a commerce business, which we think is really smart and provides kind of a more balanced approach. So again, we don't do a lot of digital media, but where we do it, it's a combination of very large market opportunity, good business model, typically multi-tiered business model, and a belief that this can be really disruptive to larger incumbents and where we think the market opportunity can yield a large company. But again, it's few and far between because, as you described, there haven't been a lot of examples of media companies that have been those kind of billion-dollar exits.
So in terms of your outbound sourcing, does it include international companies that are building elsewhere and then trying to come into the U.S. perhaps, or maybe working on different markets?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And for many years before co-founding our firm, I did a lot of international investing. So I was investing in Europe and Latin America and had several exits in those markets, and so have good experience kind of investing in international markets. And I agree, there's a lot of opportunity in many different parts of the world. At our firm, when we began, because we wanted to make sure we could work closely with our companies, and we just have one office in New York, we began focusing on the U.S., focusing on companies domestically. But we've started to broaden that a little bit over time. So we've done two investments in companies that began in the UK, Storage OS, and a marketplace company called Fat Llama. So we've been active there in Europe. We'll continue to be, and I think over time we will broaden out. So we will eventually look to LATAM. We'll probably eventually look to Asia. But the nature of the outbound sourcing model is one where, although you can identify the company internationally, you also have to be able to add value. And so one thing we think a lot about is, over time can we build a value add team, what we call a success team, to be able to really help companies with the challenges that they have and the growth opportunities. And one thing we do look for where we're doing a deal outside the U.S. is a local partner, a firm that can really help us, that has local domain expertise, and can kind of add value in areas where we may not have all of the expertise. And so as we grow and expand, I think we think a lot about having local relationships with great partners.
All right. What trends are you seeing in your deal flow? If you look at maybe the last 18 months deal flow, what strikes you as emerging trends? Yeah,
definitely. There are really three themes that we use to kind of guide our sourcing strategy, and I can kind of go through each of them. And these themes really have evolved as a result of what we're seeing in the market, as well as where we've done well historically, and our belief around kind of what trends are going to be driving the areas that we focus on. So the first is what we call software for the second wave, and we describe that as verticalized software companies that are pursuing market verticals that historically have had low software penetration, but now kind of given the evolution of software, given the proliferation of mobile phones, enable workers in those industries to really kind of improve how they do business. And so if you think about, examples of that, you're seeing it in a lot of different areas. In construction, you might have seen the recent acquisition of PlanGrid. You're seeing it in areas such as real estate. We've been pretty active in a couple of different categories within there. So as an example, one of our most recent deals that fits that thesis is a business called Squire. Squire provides software for the barbershop and salon market. Now, the barbershop market historically hasn't really used software. You go to the barbershop and you sit there and you wait for your haircut, and typically you pay with cash, and typically you don't have the ability to book via mobile phone, and you can't use your credit card, and the barbershop itself typically doesn't have software for payroll. And what we found now in that industry is that barbershops are much more willing to adopt technology because they can make their businesses run better. So that's really what Squire does, and it's really kind of representative of that theme, software for the second wave. That's the first theme. The second theme that we are really looking closely into is what we call citizen professionals, and we describe citizen professionals as an area where the tools of data science, data analytics, advanced algorithms can enable workers who aren't necessarily experts in certain areas to become like experts. So as an example, a company like Tableau is a good example of that theme, where now folks can do really advanced data visualization and data graphs without necessarily having a PhD in data science or programming. And so we're seeing a lot of different areas where that approach is starting to manifest itself into new startups. So everything from financial analysis to the legal field to the accounting and financial field. So this theme of citizen professionals is one where we think there are going to be a lot of interesting startups kind of coming out of that really improve how the average worker kind of does their daily work, and enables them to really have the skills that are similar to what you might have seen with very expensive experts over time. And then the last theme is what we call personalized consumer experiences. And I think I touched on it a little bit in describing some of our consumer investments. One of our beliefs is that you're going to see a new wave of consumer companies that provide much more personalized experiences. So one example of a business that fits that theme that obviously has been very successful is Stitch Fix. And if you think about what Stitch Fix does in terms of providing personalized, personalized styling experiences to customers using really advanced data and data science combined with a personal touch. And so that's one example of a business that, kind of fits that theme. And we think we're going to see a lot of new startups that are in those categories over time. And so we're looking for that next wave of startups that provide these personalized consumer products and services using data, typically, leveraging the internet, and oftentimes, having new cost advantages versus incumbents that don't have nearly the ability to tailor their products and services to customer demand. So those are the three themes we're spending a lot of time in, and we're looking for great startups that are fitting those themes.
So I want to comment a little bit on your personalized consumer experience team. I did one of the first ever online fashion companies, personalized fashion. It was very early, 20 years ago. So the data was not quite there at that point. But now, of course, that's something that a lot of people are working on. But this is a category of products that require quite a bit of technology development to work. So, so the question is a bit of a subtle question. You want to come in after there is some validation. Is there a group of investors that you're working with who are willing to do the earlier part of this kind of business development? Because this is not something you can do on the back of a napkin.
No, that's a very good question. It's something we struggle with a bit because, when we find an exceptional founding team that may not have yet, even a prototype, it may just be an idea. We debate a little bit internally. Should we jump in a bit earlier and invest and help the company kind of build some of those tools and build the team? Because as you described it, it's not cheap to do that. So I think we'll do that a bit more, especially with founding teams where we have a lot of conviction around their ability to build. But I would say more generally, we do partner with different types of investors. So we are oftentimes partnering with what you might call pre-seed funds, folks that are writing that first check when it really is just an idea on a napkin. And there are several pre-seed funds that we really admire. So as an example, Charles Hudson and Precursor Ventures, we think he is very good in identifying, really top founders who are, just looking for that first check to kind of be able to get into business. We have Notation Capital, which is in New York, which does good work. There's another fund, A4 Capital. We just actually invested in a company after A4 did the pre-seed. We invested in the traditional seed and led that round. And so they're a great fund that really does that first check. So we do look for partners who are a little bit earlier than us and can provide that first check. And we also do work with angel investors as well who can provide that capital. But I think over time, as you described, we may be a little bit opportunistic there, where we see an exceptional team in a big market and maybe write a little bit of a smaller check ourselves to be able to be in that round and start to work with the founders and then be able to write a bigger check as they get to, more of a larger, institutional seed round, so to speak.
Yeah. These are not quite as lean startups as some of the other categories we've discussed. Personalization is heavy-duty technology, so you need a technical founder who can access the data on which to run the personalization engine. For that, they need to do some biz dev potentially to get access to the data. So it's a lot more complex than the traditional lean startup model that we've. I think the ecosystem has scaled the lean startup model very nicely, and we're seeing great bootstrap startups come out. But I think there's a case to be made about building a bit more of an infrastructure and ecosystem to do fast startups to solve some of the problems that we're talking about as well.
Yep, you're exactly right. These companies do need advanced technical teams. They need technical founders, but they also need, early capital to be able to test things out and really get the algorithms correct and have a large enough training data set to be able to, to provide a product that starts to work. So I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. All right. Well, very nice conversation. And I love the way you have really, articulated the three areas that you are interested in. And it's very specific, very well thought through. So congratulations on that.
Oh, really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to join today.
All right. Well, Maureen tells me that you will stay around for a bit for the pitches, and then you have to run for a meeting. So let's do one pitch at least. And so entrepreneurs, before you start pitching, I just want to set some expectations. Remember, this is a safe working session. You don't need to be defensive. You don't need to be nervous. Just, talk about what is it that you need help with, and we'll try to give you perspective on that. We are on your side. Always remember, 1 million by 1 million is on the side of the entrepreneur. it is possible you may disagree with my feedback. That is often, something that you will have to contemplate, whether you want to disagree with the feedback or you want to listen and consider the feedback. It's okay that you disagree, but first we would like you to consider the feedback because it's based on quite a lot of experience, and just don't be defensive and put your blinders on and not listen, and that defeats the purpose of being here. One thing also you need to remember is not all businesses can raise money, not all businesses should raise money. Raising money doesn't guarantee success, and you don't also just have to build a $1 billion business. You can build a $5 million business or a $10 million business, and it's a different strategy of how you build those businesses, but those are also very good success stories. If you build a profitable, sustainable business that you build for the long term, those are also considered successes. At least in our community, we consider them very, very successful businesses. All right, so let's get started. Arun Joshi, you are going first. Rigava Solar. Go ahead.
Hi, Sramana. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can hear you.
Very well. Thank you for providing this platform. Firstly, myself, Arun Joshi, business development partner in Rigava Solutions. I have a marine engineering degree from Premier Institute in India, and I have completed my MBA also from SPJ. So I was working in different consulting firms before. Genpact was one of them, and I was an operations consultant primarily. Before I begin with the slides, I would like to share about Rigava. Rigava is amalgamation of three Sanskrit words: Rishya, which is thoughtful; Garyasya, which means better; and Vase, which means control. So we are collectively bringing out the philosophy of Rigava, which is better, thoughtful, and controlled. It is a startup that has a core expertise in project execution of solar system for home and for small and medium enterprises. It helps in reducing the electricity consumption and also improves the environment by reducing the carbon footprint. We are into actually B2C segment with project size ranging from 1 to 500 kilowatts. And we are doing B2B business with respect to customized ancillary products and services. So these are basically primarily we are dealing with the company to company where solar is one of the commodity, and we provide them with products such as commoditized products such as ACDB, DCDB, structures, cables, wires, etc. Company has capabilities beyond solar also, and we have also ventured into solar thermal, which I will discuss in the later slide. So next slide. The current market of solar is actually very conducive. The current market is in a transition phase as the momentum is building due to government's ambitious target of 175 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2022. But rapid scaling of this market in India, the grid connection market especially, has created an unhealthy competition among the project developers, construction companies, equipment suppliers, service providers, etc. And this has resulted in compromise of the quality standards in project design, selection of equipment and balancer system. So basically, there are many pain points in the industry, and to name few, upfront cost is very high. The process of getting the solar for retail homes is very complex. Project timeline is currently high as the project is not delivered on time, and the standard of quality of the product is also very low. As a result, the reliability of solar in domestic segments is dismal. And there is a barrier from the government side, such as DISCOM policies, subsidy policies, etc. So overall, there are pain points in the industry. 6 out of 10 people suffer from these. and 99% of the solar companies currently has not been able to build a brand actually in the domestic segment. Next slide. Okay, so actually I see wrong slides happening. So yeah, so I am in slide number 3, which is 13, which is I think number 12.
So do you want me to go back or go forward?
Yeah, you can go back to slide number 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rigava was incubated in National Institute of Solar Energy with the intention to solve solar technology pain points. We educate customers about the quality, and we are accelerating the solar technology by catering the domestic segment and SME segments. There is a untapped opportunity actually, and we are focusing on building capacity on these. We want to build a brand actually in solar by bringing in transparency, quality and services into the products and promote clean energy. We have grown our project team size from 5 in 2017, and now we are 25 Rigavians who are experts in various domains such as mechanical, engineering, civils and electronics. And we have able to retain the original team which we started with, and have now given them the leadership roles for various departments in operation, marketing, procurement, finance and R&D division. Next slide. So our offerings, Rigava solar is actually a part of Rigava Group, and we are not making anything new in terms of this solar product, but we are trying to address the solar pain points by providing a service delivery to our customers. While it would have been easy for us to play the market based on price, currently there is a price war happening in India, and but we are trying to develop a sales process which is in alignment with Rigava philosophy, and we are making consumer aware about the solar system before they purchase the product with us. We are adding value actually.
Can I stop you for a second?
Right.
We've listened to you for a few minutes already, and one thing that is not clear to me, it seems like you're a solar system integrator firm. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But you talk a lot about consumer dissatisfaction and so on and so forth, but you started by saying you're a B2B firm. Are you doing system integration of solar projects for businesses or consumers?
So there are two segments right now. B2C we are doing for normal customers in normal like retail segment, and B2B we are doing with governments such as National Institute of Solar Energy. So currently we are having AMC for solar thermal test facility in the National Institute of Solar Energy. So yeah, and also we are having B2B business with small and medium enterprises. We have recently done few 100 kilowatts of projects with auto engineering company in Gurgaon itself. So
my first recommendation to you would be to decide what kind of a company you want to be, because I think for a system integrator to be in B2B and B2C is going to be very difficult and very cumbersome. If I probably, if I were running this company, I would make the decision to go B2B, because you will get larger contracts and you would be able to scale this company much better. So let's, you've already taken up some time, so let's go to your questions. We understand what you're doing. We don't need to get into all these details. What is it that you're looking for help with?
So the sales process that currently we are facing a long sales cycle that is around 1 to 2 months before a customer makes a decision about going solar. So that's one thing where we are trying to innovate through use of branding, testimonials, customer site visits, promotion through customer referrals. So sales cycle is something that we are currently facing problem with, and obviously we are also orienting ourselves towards B2B right now, and we are focusing mostly on pan-India expansion based on our channel partner strategy, that is hub and spoke. So we are developing that B2B2C category, and I was just trying to ask these questions because the efforts, yes, definitely in project execution of installation is a humongous task, but we are trying to differentiate ourselves right now from our competition by giving a quality product. And
so you're let's take one by one. You've said a lot of things there. Number one is sales cycle. So 1 to 2 months, if you're doing B2B, is not a very long sales cycle. B2B sales cycles are going to be 1 to 2 months, probably even more, but they're going to be larger contracts. So depending on what business you're trying to be in, you're going to have to come up with a sales cycle and a cash flow model that is going to support that sales cycle. But if you have some reference customers, obviously it's going to go faster. When you come to sell with reference customers, customers will take you more seriously. So that's one way of cutting down sales cycles. And the other way to cut down sales cycle is not be so all over the place. It seems to me this business is very all over the place. You're trying to do this, that, and other things. And you shouldn't be going pan-India. India is a very large country. You should be focusing, on one geography that has if you decide to go B2B, I would pick one geography that has a lot of B2B business and focus on building relationships with those customers, figuring out how to build a sales channel, sales funnel. In 1 million by 1 million, we use a methodology called Sales 2.0. With using that methodology, we have scaled companies over the last decade. We have taken many companies from 1 customer to 5 customers to 50 customers to 500 customers. And it's a very, predictable sales funnel building methodology. I recommend that you build something of the sort so that you can, so there's system and process in your sales scaling. In B2B selling, unless you have a repeatable sales process, you will be bouncing around and trying to go pan-India at this stage without, having enough reference customers and enough critical mass at the very early stages is not the right strategy of how to build this business, in my opinion.
Yep, and I would just jump in there. I think it's exactly right. I think as in the early days of a startup, it's better to have a small number of customers who love you than a large number of potential customers that are kind of indifferent or, really don't need the service. So I completely agree. I think having
you
a
will
focus,
not be able to. That point is kind of moot because you will not be able to close deals. For customers that don't care, they're not going to go with you and they're not going to work with you. So you better find those customers who really have a pain point, who really want to do solar and who want to give you those projects to execute. So you've got to, there are lots of, so here's the thing. A lot of companies, when they get started at a 30,000 foot level. And 30,000 foot level is not a level from which you close deals. You have to get really down in the depths and create a very granular sales process, repeatable sales process, and that's how you actually get to closing deals. And I have to say, for us, the methodology that we follow in B2B selling is the Sales 2.0 methodology. We have full curriculum material on that. We have scaled many, many companies using that methodology, and that's what I recommend for you. If you just roll that out in one geography that you feel like there is enough business and you focus on B2B, I think you can streamline all this, blah, blah, blah around your business into something very systematic and something very predictable and repeatable.
Right.
I will answer your last question. I already answered the first 2 questions. The last question, when do you approach investors? I don't think investors invest in system integrator companies. So the answer to your question, when to approach investors, is probably never. This is going to be a business that is generated with organic revenue, that is grown with organic revenues that you generate through customer selling.
My question exactly was when to approach investors from the point of view that we have at least find out that we can standardize the part of operations and we can deliver it locally. We have SOPs that we have developed that can be replicated across, that's the reason I was saying pan-India, because we understand that operation is something that people mostly, get entangled with. So we have standardized that.
But it's a system integration business, right? Not a product business or a SaaS business.
Right.
So system integrator businesses are not what investors invest in.
Okay.
That's just a thumb rule. So I don't think, if I were you, I wouldn't count on investors as your scaling strategy. You're going to have to scale with a bootstrap model.
All right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Maureen, whom am I going to next? I know you have uploaded a whole bunch of slides here. Am I going to Matt next? Okay, Matt. So I'm going to forward to all right, Matt Turner, you are up next.
Hey, Sramana, thanks for having me on. Really happy to be here. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so this is just a quick little, you asked for a little factoid about myself. So in 2011, I had a near-death out-of-body experience. And I put that in here just because it's one of those things that radically shifts the way that you view the world. And that's a kind of a common thing for people that have had experiences like this. It's kind of like a before and after experience. Because in our society, especially in the Western world, we're really brought up to believe we're just these like physical beings that are born one day and someday we're going to die, and we don't really know if we're going to exist after that. And we're so grounded in our idea that we're physical that it limits the way that we see the world. And these experiences really shift that and expand the way that you see yourself and you see your connection and your understanding to others. And from that, it allows you to really start looking at the world in different ways. And what it left me with was a real passion for whole systems design. Now understanding my connection to everyone and everything, it became easier for me to start to see the way the world could be and should be in certain ways. And it really gave me a drive to be part of creating a solution and a company that could really take that on and help elevate consciousness around the world, both locally and globally. And so that was really just what drove me into the work I'm doing now. So you can go to the next slide and we'll kind of dive into. So what emerged was a desire to really help humanity, and the way that we decided to approach that was to make service a game that people can play together around the world. And specifically a mobile game, because that's where the world's going. Everyone has mobile phones and is getting mobile phones. We're all connected to each other, and we're all really obsessed with games and mobile gaming. It's one of the fastest growing segments of business, and it's actually one of the easiest ways to monetize as well is in-game and becoming a games platform. So thank you for going to that next slide. So what happened was I launched a team here in Santa Barbara, California, where I live with my brother. It's called the Hustlers for Humanity, and it actually takes this concept into the real world. It's a team-based volunteer group, and people join our group every day. We have probably about 600 or 700 people in our group, and that ranges from high school students to college students to just general members of the community that really want to give back. They want to get off the couch and into the community, but don't really know how to do that. And people love being part of teams, and it's a lot easier to be part of teams and do things together. So this team has been very successful here, and what we do is we have a calendar of events that we're always populating with nonprofit volunteer opportunities. Nonprofits reach out to us every day to add their events to the calendar because they all need volunteers, and they need reliability, and they need people to show up, and they're understaffed and overworked. And so we've helped probably 100 or 150 nonprofits in the last 5 years here in town, and they all have the exact same needs. They need volunteers. They need to manage those volunteers. They need donors. They need younger donors. That's the lifeblood of their business. And so what happened for us was a third partner came to the table. My brother and I were working on this group, and a third partner approached us, and he said, "How are you tracking your hours?" And we actually hadn't figured that out, but we started to set some hour goals because we wanted some goals as a team. And he said, "Hey, I'm working on a platform idea that I think would be a good fit for this. And so he became the third partner, and we launched a new company out of that called Serve Community. And it basically is a platform for service. It creates a way to drive people into the community and make it fun and make it engaging from the user side and track your stats and show progress, but it also acts as a suite of tools for nonprofits who are all paying for different types of tools to manage everything that they're doing. And there's hundreds of companies that are just SaaS companies selling direct to nonprofits, but none of them have taken a platform approach and actually built something fun from the user side. So we are kind of in the middle of both sides, building a user-based network, but also building a SaaS services company for nonprofits by taking the platform approach. And so this slide just shows our real target demographic as our first users is college students, because they all have required volunteerism and they're looking to take that to the next level and get opportunities after school. And most schools do that in a very outdated way that doesn't use technology. Kids actually get pieces of paper signed by the nonprofit saying they did the hours, and they turn those pieces of paper into the school, and they just go in a filing cabinet. And the students don't get any reward for that. It doesn't track their hours. It doesn't give them a chance to share it to get jobs after school. They just have this requirement that they have to fulfill every quarter. So they're not benefiting. And the nonprofits at the same time are not benefiting because the students don't know how to reach them, and all these nonprofits across the community want to reach these students. So we're creating a system that matches that. So you can go to the next slide.
So I have a question before we go to the next slide. Do these students, let's say they're, 3 students who are volunteering for the same nonprofit, do they find each other in your platform?
So what happens is students a lot of times are in groups like fraternities or sororities or clubs where there's required hours. And so sometimes they go out together and do these opportunities. But that's the only way they really can do it together. There's no system set up that in any way effectively brings them together to go out and do it. They're kind of all on their own to figure out their hours. So what happens is they usually just wait to the last minute, and then they go find the easiest opportunity, and then they turn their piece of paper in and they wait till the next semester. And of course there's some students
my
that are really
point,
engaged.
the reason I asked you this question is that I think you may want to consider creating facilities in your platform to bring these people together who are working for the same nonprofits or groups of people. Because if you look at the psychology of kids, right, they like to do things in groups. And that's why friendships form when you're young, because people do things in groups. They go do the same things, and they have shared experiences, shared memories, and that's how bonding happens. So I think the group nature of this is something that you should pay some attention to.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And the whole platform is a team-based approach to making the world better. So it is built around teams. So a student can be part of many different clubs and teams on the platform, and the platform synchronizes their calendars and their communication, so it lets the leaders really drive their whole group into action. It is very much a team-based platform, so you're totally spot on with that.
Okay.
Customer acquisition. So right now, this is our strategy for acquisition, is to, on the nonprofit side, there's a company called GuideStar, but it's called Candid now. GuideStar was bought by, I think it was the Foundation Center, and they created Candid, which has millions of nonprofits across the country, and it's all about transparency and creating transparency for potential donors to find out information about how money is being spent and how much money is raised. So this is a really great nonprofit that we are aligning with because they already act as a validator of nonprofits, and they create profiles and have access to information. So we can work with them through a city-by-city approach and onboard nonprofits and information about nonprofits ahead of time in communities that we can go into. So we're going to start here in Santa Barbara and then take that kind of one community at a time and test that model. And on the student side, it's a campus-by-campus model. We have a partnership with the University of Santa Barbara, UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara, and we have students and club leaders on campus that love what we're doing. So we're working hand in hand with students and teachers and faculty at the university to make sure this works at one campus. And we're going to test the model here in Santa Barbara.
I have a question, actually. When you say you're working with Candid, is it because you just want to take that's where you're sourcing data from, or is there something else, some other kind of integration that you're doing? Or are you saying that they have the directory of nonprofits and you're just going down the directory and going after those nonprofits and then bringing in the community by community and bringing the campuses that cater to those communities? So is that the strategy, or is there something else?
Yeah. Well, you're exactly right. It is a way to get data and have.
Okay, so there's no partnership needed. You can just get the data.
Totally. But we also do see a potential strategic relationship there, though, because there's some extra value in what they're doing in the world, and we think it actually could benefit everyone if we have an alignment there. But yes, at first it's really just to get the data.
Just to get the data, okay. All right.
Yep. And so this is just where we're at today. We've built a clickable prototype and done all the designs and the flow through, and now we're moving into a building mode right now on our MVP this summer. And so we're going to be building that out, and then we have a test group across Santa Barbara lined up to work with us both at the student level and at the nonprofit level, and with our own volunteer group that we can test it with of about 500 volunteers. And so that's just kind of, this is just a stage of development we're at, and then we're going to go to a couple other cities and kind of do a city by city, school by school.
You haven't said anything about business model. How do you make money?
Yeah, so the business makes money in two ways. I didn't, because your directions on the slides were very specific, and I wanted to just honor that. But there's two ways our company makes money at first. One is through services to the nonprofit. It's a freemium model where they can sign in for free, and then we can upgrade them to additional services. They're already paying for these services anyway. There's about 200 companies out there in the market competing on this side of the market. So we're not really looking to just compete with them. We're looking to provide them a free service with users and then upgrade them along the way. The second monetization strategy, which has a much bigger growth model to it, is as a mobile games platform for the user side. So the players, the students, the kids are on there playing together, and there are a lot of ways in-game to monetize very effectively that game development companies use today that we can use as well. So there's in-game transactions, purchases, upgrades that can be made. There's smaller micro games that focus action on things like sustainable development and climate change action. So we actually have game developers that want to build for our platform already. We're not working with them yet, but we see that that's really where the market can go for us, is to be a mobile games platform for social change games that actually make the real world better, but can monetize just like mobile games do today. So we have several companies and individuals that have created games, and they want to work with us. So we see the bigger growth opportunity as a mobile games platform for the user side. So that was basically it. And then I have this list of questions for you if we can go through them one by one, unless you have some other thoughts you want to give me before we go through these.
So let me first ask you about this $220,000 pre-seed funding. How did you get that?
Yep. We raised through a kind of an angel group. We have some friends and family and then several angel investors. One or two of them are here locally, and then we have one overseas. And they love the project. And one of them came in the second time, so he invested $50,000, and then about 6 months later put another $50,000 in, and he actually is on board to put more in as we attract more capital. He really likes the project.
And so you haven't built an MVP yet?
No, we're moving into that stage now. We've built a clickable prototype with feedback from our different user bases along the way to get to where we are now. But now we need to go into a build mode and build the first physical prototype so we can continue to work with this beta group of students and nonprofits and organizations to fine-tune the mechanics.
So this 3 co-founder team, does anybody have any experience in product design? I understand nobody is an engineer, but have you designed? Has anybody designed a product before?
Yes, the third partner that's done the prototype has designed a couple products, but not an extensive amount of experience. He's a really great designer, though, and our prototype looks beautiful, and he's done a great job on it, but he doesn't have experience building out products. So that has been a weakness for us. It's been a strength and a weakness. It was a strength in the sense that we had to really work. We've been working on this for 4 years. I mean, we've worked on it every day for 4 years to get it to where it is now. We love this project, and we've had to work with our customers, nonprofits, volunteers, students across the community, and we've had time to do that because we couldn't just start hacking away and build a product. but we really do need to add this piece to the team. We have 3 or 4 third-party teams that love what we're doing and want to work with us, but we don't have anyone on our core team really that can take the reins of the engineering side of our project. So we're definitely looking for somebody to become a core team member.
So co-founders can, in my opinion, co-founders can and should only be recruited from your network. So you have to find somebody whom you know, who believes in your work, and bring that person on board if that person is willing to do that. There is no other way of finding co-founders. The alternative is that you could outsource the development, but that's why I asked you the question on does anybody know how to design the product? Because if you don't know how to design the product and you don't know how to program the product, then it's going to be very difficult to outsource the development of this product. I mean, you're talking about a lot of very, 30,000-foot level concepts, and I just don't see how that connects. And what you're talking about should not have taken 4 years to do. I'm just a bit surprised that you've been able to raise $220,000 because in Silicon Valley you would not be able to raise this money with this team and with this level of progress. So it's not good. I mean, 4 years to take 4 years to get to this place with $220,000 of funding is not good.
Well, we didn't raise the 220. We only raised that money about a year and a half ago. So the first 2 years were just us. We weren't trying to raise money. We were just thinking through the problem and working with customers from different angles to see what their real needs were, to figure out how we actually needed to design this project. In the last year, we've been building out our designs and our clickable prototype, which, if you saw it, it actually looks beautiful. The design work is actually great. So we're strong in design on user interface, but we need the help on the back end.
So my point is, even if you have had $220,000 for a year and a half, you should be able to get to MVP with that. So clearly there is some missing skill sets and you're pointing that out. You're pointing that out that you were missing some core skill set. And if you haven't been able to find an engineering co-founder, then maybe you should consider outsourcing it. And if you have a mock-up, then pulling together the back end of the mock-up may be something you can handle. So go to Upwork and find a team that can finish your product so that you can get to MVP and start making things happen. Because the rest of the skill set you have, you can go talk to nonprofits, you can go talk to campuses and start recruiting, but you do need a core software piece with which to make this thing start to roll. So I would probably make the decision at this point to go and outsource the product development to a team off Upwork. You go recruit on Upwork and get this done so that your $220,000 results in something that is appropriate for that level of funding.
Totally, yeah, I appreciate that. We have, like I said, we have 3 and now a 4th company that's emerged that wants to be that third partner, and we're doing a follow-up interview with them later today, and we could end up choosing them. They're really great. But we really do ideally want to have someone join our core team, and I'll take your suggestion to go on to Upwork. I haven't been able to find that person in Santa Barbara yet through my network.
Upwork is not going to be finding a co-founder. Upwork will most likely going to be a development partner. Third-party development partner. Where are the companies that you're interviewing are where? Are they local?
One of them is local. One of them is virtual. One of them is in Eugene, Oregon.
These are the companies. If you want to hire these from the U.S., it's going to cost a fortune. I would do an offshore team in Eastern Europe or India or Bangladesh.
Yeah, we have
or
one
somewhere.
out of the Ukraine is one. We have one out of the Ukraine that we've already interviewed, and they're capable. We've been hesitant just because they're not local, and we've gotten good references from one of our investors to use them. But because they're not local, we were a little hesitant to hire them, even though they're offering us a better deal, because there's not as much hands-on there, and we were hoping to find somebody we could get to know on a personal level locally.
Yeah, then it's going to cost you a fortune and you're going to burn through
Yeah.
your money. Don't assume that you can keep raising money without hitting milestones. So investors will stop funding you unless you deliver real milestones based on this. So there are two concerns I have. One is obviously execution. You need to show some real execution. Two, which we already talked about. The second thing is business model. This whole gaming vision that you're talking about, unless you can, very clearly show what is this game, what is the design of this game, no one's going to buy into it. You have to show very clearly what is this game that you want everybody to play, and how does it monetize this. Again, you're 30,000-foot level. If you get into I would say most investors will not work with you at this 30,000-foot level. You have to get down to the depths and down to the details in a way that people can really see that, okay, yes, this is happening. This is how it's going to go. This is the next step. 1 foot before the other. The map of how you put 1 foot before the other needs to be much, much crisper, much clearer. So if you're talking about premium services being your monetization path, you need to articulate what those premium services are at a very granular level and how you're going to get those developed, considering that you don't have an engineering team. And second, if you're going for a game, then who's going to design that game? What is that design of the game, and how is that going to monetize? Because right now, this doesn't feel like a business to me at all. And most investors are not going to invest in something that doesn't feel like a business.
Totally, I appreciate that. And I didn't obviously include any slides of the prototype that we've designed. And I think some of your questions would be answered by that, but totally taken to heart. I really appreciate your feedback on it.
But what I like really very much about your idea is gamification of, volunteering starting from a young age, and kind of if they want to continue, they can continue doing it with their friends and all of that. I think this is a good way to evolve society. And you set out by saying that you have a bigger mission, and I think if this is something that becomes a part of the social fabric, I think that would be a very good thing. So on that front, I fully, resonate with what you're saying, what you want to do. Now you do need to connect the dots and really show the granular path of how you're going to build this business.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much. And my last question for you real quick is, would it be worth me exploring connecting with Silicon Valley more? I'm in Santa Barbara and I go up to San Francisco often, but I don't really have a network there. Do you have any suggestions on how to plug into the network there, if you think it's worth my time to start to plug in there?
If you hold on for a bit, let me finish this next presentation, and I will talk about how to use 1Mby1M, and the network is part of our offering.
Okay, great.
You need connectors. To get into Silicon Valley, you need connectors, and conceivably this could be something that you could use for that purpose.
That'd be great. I'd love to explore that. I'll hang on for sure. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Suraj Venkat, you are next.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Go ahead.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to keep it short, and I'm going to keep it very crisp because that's the concept with CodeTrace. It's a simple problem, but nobody has been able to solve it the way we have. And unlike the previous with all due respect to the previous presenter and company, we've hit the milestones without the money. So we've run lean. We're international. So it was started by the founder, Hike. He's on this call too. And I'm the chief business officer, and I just recently joined. But we're very determined to sort of solve the problem in identifying engineering talent. By the way, both of us are international. Hike works from Armenia. I just moved from the US back to India because there's no support for Indian entrepreneurs or any international entrepreneurs in America, or maybe there is, but I found it very hard for 1 year. Anyway, so I'm here presenting. This is the concept, and it's really hard for people to tap coding skills. and it's very hard for recruiters who have no idea about technical skills to gauge somebody who does possess technical skills, right? The process is tedious, long, and it doesn't really measure the performance of the recruit once he comes on board. So you don't find out a lot of the things about how active he would be as a developer or what his previous projects say about his skill set. So very simple concept. You know, every single programmer or any good programmer uses GitHub. So essentially what our platform does is you log in with your GitHub, you press the analyze button, and it gives you straight up very good measure of how good of a programmer you are, how experienced you are, how committed you are, and what technologies you know. So it takes away that first problem of, you know, like doing the skills validation. So they always have this round in technical interviews where they ask you stupid questions like, hey, like solve this using stacks or something. Like, of course, we know stacks, or, you know, like some language specific problems like C++ or Python, whatever it is. It's kind of dumb to keep repeating that process. So this is where CodeTrace comes in. It gives you a nice overview. It shows you all the languages. It shows you all the technologies the person has worked with. It comes up with a measure of the experience that's based on certain metrics like how often you commit, how many repositories you have, how much you contribute. And it also obviously tags your location, so recruiters near you can find you easily. Essentially, that's the concept. In fact, we've hit the milestones without the money. So there's 46,000 people who have used CodeTrace to analyze their skills. So we have a database of 46,000. We've roughly scanned over 500 million records and zero marketing budget, by the way. We have 9,000 followers on Facebook. This project has been ongoing for 2 years, and the total market size is 2.4 million IT, HRs, recruiters, and like our goal is very, like, in fact, my goals are higher than 200 hiring specialists, but if we can tap more than that, I would like to go to the next slide. It talks about the sort of like numbers in more detail, which might be more interesting to investors. So monthly, it's $200 per recruiter. Annually, it's $2,200. We're keeping the aim very modest, like 200 recruiters use this. Bunch of savings for them in terms of time, and good revenue starts to flow in for the company too. It's just a 5 to 10 minute screening process. You can compare the other very significant platforms, and they don't do it the way we do. And we built it very efficiently with very, very good technology stacks. So we use Golang. And, you know, like in the US, just a Golang developer would probably cost more than the amount we're asking for. So I would like to just shift to the next slide. If that's okay.
One or the next one?
So yeah, this is all we're looking for, and this will keep us afloat for like a year, and we don't want any funding after this. We want to close with 400K, and we want to actually be a revenue-driven company. And I don't doubt how we would not make more than a few $1 million with this idea. It's very simple, it's very crisp, and you can see the math. That's it. That's it from my end.
So the main issue with your presentation, a lot of it is great that you've got, you know, users and everything, you've got profiles analyzed. So has any recruiter paid you to use this service yet?
So we haven't actually reached out to users because we kept it very developer-centric. So, you know, there's the marshmallow test. So we're actually trying to do delayed gratification in that sense because we're building a two-sided marketplace. So we wanted one side to be like really heavy and get to a good saturation point. So a number like 50,000, hey, here's the database of 50,000 users, top programmers, and you can come hire as well as recruit more people. That sounds more pleasant than you saying, hey, we're just sort of developing this marketplace, pay us to recruit from here. So
yeah, but for investors, you would want some transactions to start happening so the business model is validated. That's number one feedback.
Like right now,
frankly,
immediate steps. Yep, sorry.
Suraj, frankly, I don't see why you cannot get 50 recruiters to, not 50 recruiters, maybe 10 recruiters to start using your product right away.
Sure. So about that, so we've just set up the sales engine again in a very lean way in California. So we're now starting to pitch it out to sort of like recruiting firms, and I'm aware of a few, so that's quite okay. I think we'll be able to hit pretty quickly, but it's just that, like we want to hire more devs and we want to expand the scope of the product itself. So personally, like I wanted to add this feature where you can sort of like do skills validation for specific skill sets like IoT or augmented reality and things like that. So we wanted to do a few like iterations to the product and make it even better than it already is. So
yeah, but you have to do that with the other side of the marketplace in action. You cannot do it by ignoring the other side of the marketplace. You need to do that with transactions happening, with people paying, with the recruiters. This is your customer. Recruiters are your customers. You have to get them to be part of the marketplace to validate whether this is actually working or not. That's number one. Second thing is, so what you're doing in GitHub, do you need permission from GitHub to do that?
Yeah, we get the required permissions, and we have a pretty good privacy policy that states that, it takes care of these things. Like, we're good on that part. Like, GitHub allows you to sort of like for other tools to sort of use GitHub to log in, so that's okay.
And the third point is, investors typically are not looking to build a business that scales to $4 million in revenue in 5 years. That kind of business is a bootstrap business. Investors are trying to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. So you can't have it both ways. Either you have investors and you scale a business at the pace and velocity and scale that they want to be at, or you build a bootstrap business and you can build a $4 million business in 5 years, no problem.
So we can shoot for the stars, but we need the right kind of advisors for that. So the project so far has had the sort of philosophy where we've kept things lean, and we've really not we've sort of gone for that bootstrap model. But I mean, if we have the right person with the right temperament who can bring investment as well as that sort of like growth temperament, I think we could do that too. And maybe that's why we're passively seeking investment too, because we need that kind of fire.
No, you cannot seek investment and then get advice from people who will invest in you. You're going to first need advice so that you can attract investors. Right now, the way you are, if you go to investors, they're not going to invest in you. So you first need advice to figure out how you're going to tell a story that investors would be interested in funding. So in a way, you've come to the right place, potentially. So listen to what I'm going to say next. I'm going to explain to you how to use the program. And then you can decide whether you want to use this program to learn what you need to learn, but you do have some learning to do.
Of course.
Okay. All right. It's great that you have a bunch of things already happening and activity in the platform, and all that is good. But there are other pieces that need to come together before you can qualify for investment. Okay, folks. Before I start explaining to you how to use the 1Mby1M platform, let me just ask for something from you. If you like what we're doing here, as you can see, it's like really hardcore feedback on how to put one foot before the other. Refer serious entrepreneurs into 1Mby1M, whether it's your friends and family or colleagues who are trying to build businesses and are serious about it. This is a great place for them to learn. All the resources we offer are at 1Mby1M.com, and it's virtual. So any entrepreneur from anywhere in the world can access the program and do this at your own pace. Go to the blog, it's free. You'll get a flavor of the kind of content and the learning that you can get from that content just randomly. Just by following the blog, you'll learn a lot. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series is a series of 12 books. A lot of people learn from these books, and that's fine. It's a good way to learn. We have these roundtables. They're free. They happen every week. You can come to these roundtables, hang out these roundtables. You'll learn a lot. Our full acceleration program is 1Mby1M Premium. where we offer you extensive methodology guidance exactly on how to put one foot before the other. We have a terrific curriculum, which is like a mini MBA program with all aspects of early stage technology startups. We help you with business development. Our network, which is one of the most powerful networks in the startup ecosystem, is available to you if you're part of the premium program, and we will connect you with people who may be able to help you move forward to the extent we have those contacts. The strategy consulting, you could call it strategy consulting, you can call it mentoring, coaching, advising, whatever, happens in roundtables similar to these, but we have private roundtables that are members only for our premium members. You're very welcome to use as many of those as you need to and pitch and dialogue and get project-specific advice as those as part of the premium program. And that also includes getting you ready for financing. And when you're ready, if and when you're ready for financing, we have the network to introduce you. If you go to the seed capital section of our blog, of the website, you'll find lots of interviews with investors. You saw one today. We have numerous investors that we work with. We will, just like you need to have product market fit, you also need an investor entrepreneur fit. So we try to help you connect with investors who are, who are the right investors for your type of business, your stage, your geography, your type of business, your industry sector, etc. So we do help with financing, and we do make those introductions, and we have a great community of investors around us. And then there is media relations. We have a lot of clout in the media, and we can help you get the word out about what you're doing. Go to the 1M1M self-assessment on the website. It asks you questions. It's a questionnaire. These are the questions investors will ask you. So in preparing, you should ask these questions of yourselves. If you get stuck, these are methodology points that you could be getting stuck in. 1M1M Basic is the curriculum-only program from 1Mby1M, just $99 a month, and you can plug your methodology gaps. So many of you are coming here with quite a bit of need for what I call this mini entrepreneurship MBA for early stage startups, technology startups. I would suggest just go do 1M1M Basic and learn what you need to learn and get moving on the issues where you're stuck. Like Arun Joshi, the presentation you made, the issue that we identified was you need to pull together the Sales 2.0 methodology and implement something to do a repeatable sales process. Well, go to the curriculum and learn the Sales 2.0 methodology, and that may be, that may solve your problem. In the case of, in the case of the other presenters, Suraj and Matt, you have a lot of learning to do. I think, whether you do basic or premium gives you access to the curriculum as well. You can, either way is fine, but you do need to learn about financing, what it takes to get financed, and what are people looking for, what are investors looking for, and so on and so forth. And all that will help you line up the ducks to get to something that is, scalable and potentially fundable. And the benefit of the premium program is that you can get the project-specific coaching on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. And that actually is not available anywhere else in the world. To have regular weekly coaching on an ongoing basis is not available from any other program. Anyway, so go dig around on the website. Everything is on the website. The website is very rich. Try to understand the various program offerings and see if this program is for you. It requires a tremendous amount of self-learning. It's not a spoon-feeding kind of program. So go, spend the time, see if you want to do their video FAQs. There's a detailed description of the curriculum on how we structure the curriculum. It's case studies and video lectures-based curriculum. And we have over 1,000 successful entrepreneurs on whose shoulders you will be standing, because the whole curriculum is developed with them and with their perspectives, their case studies. So go study the curriculum, and this is something that is going to definitely advance your ability to devise strategy that is going to help you scale faster. Our methodology is lead capital efficient bootstrap startups. Philosophy is bootstrap first, raise money later, not because that's necessarily what we fancy, it's just how the market operates. That's how the market operates. Now, market wants validated companies to invest in, and that's just how we operate, because we want our companies to be successful, and that's the most predictable way to be successful. That's it. We have 3 more roundtables this month, July 11th, 18th, and 25th. Next week is 4th of July, so we don't have a roundtable. And then we have 2 rendezvous. These are in-person meetings in Silicon Valley. So if you're visiting Silicon Valley from anywhere in the world and you want to stop by for networking, come by to a rendezvous. Last night I had a rendezvous, and there were people from China, from the UK, from Texas. So it's very interesting. And from India, it's, you meet people from all over the world. You meet local people as well. But it's a great, very informal, very cozy networking session where you can actually discuss meaningful subjects that you are concerned with. Just like this, these are also sessions where you can really get input on meaty, meaningful subjects. That's it. We have 4 minutes to go, and I would be happy to take questions. If you want to type in your questions or send or call in for Q&A, you're welcome to do that. While you're doing that, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the program, you're very welcome to contact Irina at 1Mby1M.com. Anybody with questions?
This is Matt Turner. Thanks, Sramana. You really answered my questions. Just wanted to thank you again, and I might even pop up to Menlo Park and attend one of those sessions.
Absolutely, by all means. By all means. Please do.
Thanks so much.
Look forward to meeting you sometime soon. Suraj Venkat, you're asking, can you excuse the 1,000 fee, and what is the justification? This is our business model. Why should we excuse the $1,000 fee? What is the justification for this request? We don't operate on a success fee basis. $1,000 is a pittance for the kind of value we offer. You want a trial? Go do 1M1M basic. Go start with a $99 a month, invest $99, give yourself the curriculum, spend 50, 100 hours and learn the curriculum, and maybe that's all you want to do. That's fine. Don't make unreasonable requests. It really gets on my nerves. We are a business. We operate extremely professionally, and we are working for decades to do this. Very sincerely, in a very committed way. And we have helped, I would say, millions of entrepreneurs at this point, because our content is very well distributed around the world. If you're not willing to spend $99, Suraj, I don't think this is the right platform for you. So please find help somewhere else. All right, folks, 1 more minute to go, and then we're going to adjourn the session. Suraj, you're very welcome to join, and we'll be very happy to work with you. Anybody else before we adjourn? All right. We will adjourn the session and meet you next time. Enjoy 4th of July weekend for those of you who are in America, and we'll meet back here next roundtable. Bye-bye.